Here's a fully functioning Tetris game that I made in Python using GPT-4. It works. I can rotate the tetraminos. I can put them down. There's a square one. They're all different colors. We have a scoreboard. We also have a level. And let's try to make one row to show you that it works. So when we rotate it, drop it down, the row flashes and the score increases. So this is a fully functioning Tetris game. It was made mostly with GPT-4. I would say GPT-4 made 98% of the code, and I had to manually modify about 2 to 5% of the code. So let me show you the journey how we got here. I tried to make the game 3 different times, 2 times in GPT-4 and 1 time using the BingChat. I'll go over the first time I tried with GPT-4, then I'll show you quickly the second time. I didn't really learn as much there, and then at the end I'll show you the BingChat. I learned from the prompt engineering class that you want to include a nice long prompt. So here's the initial prompt for the game. Create a Tetris game using Python, and then I gave it all the different specifications. How big I want the game window, what kind of blocks I want, what kind of controls, so left, right arrow keys, how to rotate the key using the up key. Also told it that I wanted the score and like the level type and all these things. So if you want to see all the different parameters I wanted, you can pause it and read all the different instructions. In the first prompt, GPT-4, I told it to generate an outline, and it does this really well, and it did this well in all 3 times that I did it. Both GPT-4 and the BingChat in the creative mode do this really well. First, you want to import the library, so pygame and random. Second, generate the constants. Third, define the tetramino class. Tetramino are the Tetris blocks. Then define the game board class. And all of these have different functions defined. Then define the game loop, and then how to handle the game over screen and restarting the game. And then what I do, I ask an individual prompt for all of these steps. So I say, create code for step 1. So that's exactly what I did. So here, create code for step 1. It gives you the import pygame import random. Then step 2. So it's now starts giving you code like the colors of the blocks, the shapes of the blocks, and things like that. And then you keep going. Step 3, step 4, step 5, all the way here. So now I have the full code. So I went to PyCharm and pasted all these into PyCharm. So then I got the Tetris GPT version 1, and then you can run the code. So when you run version 1, you're gonna get some type of an error. And that's usually an easy way to troubleshoot. Whenever you run a code and you get an error, then you can just tell GPT-4 that what kind of error you get. So I say, I got the following error, and then I just copy paste whatever PyCharm console gives me, and I paste it into GPT-4. So then we went to several rounds of these troubleshootings until I got to version 2 of the code. So version 1 doesn't work. I ran it a bunch of times. I got a bunch of errors. I gave it to GPT-4 and it fixed it. So then I got to version 2 of the code, and let's run that and see what the problem is. It creates the window, but you can see the window is too wide. So now I'm pushing all the way to the right and I can't go. So the window is the right size that I want, but it has this extra space on the left, okay? So the game kind of works. You can rotate the determinos and it does work. So let's try to make a row, and let's now drop this one down, and that will make a row, okay? And as you can see, now we made a full row. It's trying to blink, so it's blinking white. That's what I wanted in the definition, but it's kind of stuck here. So it created a row. The score keeps increasing, so that's like a glitch in the game. So I described this in GPT-4 that this is happening, and it gave me suggestions what to correct, how to change this, and how to fix it. And then also I fixed the size of the window. Version 3, I call it backup because I modified it further. So let's run this game. And here we have a game that looks fully functioning. So you can go all the way to the left. The game window is good size. It does work. So let's drop some of these in. So now we have a square, we have another square. So let's try to make a row. Here's another one of these, and here's another square. Okay, let's drop that down. We made a row, and now we got some increase in score. If you noticed in this game, I'm getting a lot of squares. There's something wrong with this. I got some L's, but mostly I'm getting squares and these Z-shaped ones. So here's this is the S-shaped one, and I get the Z-shaped ones, but I'm not getting any of the 4 long ones. I'm getting a lot of squares. So there's some problem with this game. And so I tried to troubleshoot this from version 3. So what we identify is that I'm not getting all the different 7 tetraminos. I'm only getting like 4 of them. And I'll go through the code and explain exactly what's happening. So I was trying to change the code of the different tetraminos, and I made lots of different versions. So version 4, version 6, and we kept going for a long time, and I just could never get to the final version that would work as I wanted to. Also, at some point, I ran out of prompts for GPT-4. You only get 25 prompts every 3 hours. So it switched me to ChatGPT. And I don't think ChatGPT works as nice as GPT-4. It's just not as nice in responding. What I asked GPT-4 to do is every time you want me to change some code, just define the whole function. Don't tell me like change this line with this line, because it's really hard to find in the code where you have that line and how to change it. It's a lot easier when it tells you, just change this rotate function, and here's the new rotate function. So I can go copy paste and change that in the code. I did a lot of troubleshooting, and I could never really get the game to work. Oh yeah, so you can see this one. I'm pushing now all the way to the right, and it won't go all the way to the right. If I rotate it, it'll work, but there's a glitch in the game. So I was trying to resolve all these problems using GPT-4, and just does not work well for troubleshooting. If you don't have a knowledge of the code, like the deep knowledge of the code, it's really hard to resolve these issues. It's probably easier to just start over if you don't know how to code and just hope for the best that it gives you a proper code from the beginning. So for generating original code, it's really nice to kind of give you the framework, but then to troubleshoot small issues, it's not that easy with the GPT-4. So I got really frustrated after all these different prompts. As you can see, I spent probably a couple hours on this, and I abandoned this whole project for a couple days. And then I tried again from scratch after a few days. So here's the second try. So Python Tetris, try 2. So let's go all the way to the top. As you can see, it didn't go that much better. And I started with slightly different prompts. So I looked at my notes from the first try and tried to figure out what kind of issues I was getting with the original code and tried to change it in my original prompt. So in the original prompt in the first try, I called the blocks, but it's better to call them tetraminos so the code knows what exactly I'm referring to, because sometimes you'll get confused between blocks and squares. So square would be like the building block of a block. So each block would be 4 squares. And then it does the same thing really well. It splits the code into 7 different parts, and then it creates all these different parts. What's interesting that the code is different. So I did change the prompt a little bit, but I think every time you generate code for a game, it will give you slightly different code. So it's quite interesting. So you can run the same prompt 5 times and you can get 5 different codes. So I followed the same exact framework as in the first part. So this is the version 1 of the second try, and it gives me the game board. It also gives me a grid, which is kind of nice, but it doesn't show me any blocks. So I tell it exactly what was happening, and we did some troubleshooting. And so let's try version 2. So here's version 2, and it seems like nothing is happening. No blocks are coming down, but then I let it run for a little bit. And as you will see, after a while, the blocks do show up on the bottom. See, like there's a block. So some blocks are kind of coming down, but it's not showing up the blocks. So it's really important to know what's happening. I try to give GPT-4 information on what is issue with the game. Because if you tell it that the blocks are not showing up, it's not entirely correct, because they do show up eventually. So I can rotate them and I can move them around, but I can't see them as they're coming down. So I tried to explain this to GPT-4 and then I troubleshooted this. All right, so here we have version 4. It's dropping slow. That's fine. We can increase the speed later. I can rotate it, but it's really funny. So when I'm rotating it, I'm pushing the arrow up key. It's changing the block. So that's not rotation, that's changing the block. I can move it up and down. So there's definitely still issues. And this is the problem. So now I got to the bottom with the block and it's not showing me a new block. It's stuck. So there's still some type of a glitch. This is as far as I got on the second try. I did a lot of troubleshooting, and at just some point I just stopped caring, and I was like, well, let's try with BingChat to see if it works any better. Then I tried to make the Tetris game using BingChat. For BingChat, I used the creative mode. The creative mode is much better than the more balanced or more precise mode in the BingChat. I pasted the same exact command I used for GPT-4. The formatting is kind of weird, so you can read it, but it's the same exact stuff. And it works really, really similar to GPT-4. It creates the outline of the code. So it gives you kind of bullet points as opposed to step 1 through 10. So it tells you import Pygame and then define constants. So very similar steps compared to GPT-4. So then I went ahead and said provide codes for step 1, and it gives you the code, and step 2, and then I copied and pasted into a PyCharm. What's nice about BingChat is that I wrote provides code for step 1, and then it provided the code. And then after it gives you the answer, it also provides you with like a suggested next prompt. And one of the suggestions was obviously provide code for step 2. So I didn't have to kind of copy paste provide code for step 2. So that's nice thing of BingChat compared to ChatGPT, that it gives you kind of suggested next prompts. But there are also some issues about the BingChat that make it a lot less friendly than GPT-4 or ChatGPT, and I'll discuss those at the end. 9 different steps, so you can see it provided quite a bit of code. And then we got a version 1. So here we have TETRIS Bing version 1. And when we run it, let's see if he has errors or yeah. So it gives you some type of an error. Oh, the orange color wasn't defined, which was a really weird omission. So I just manually defined that. And then we did some troubleshooting with that. So I did troubleshooting. So I have version 2. So what happened with the BingChat code is that when you run the code, the game window shows up, but then it disappears. And that's a lot harder to troubleshoot than when you're getting the errors in the console. So when you get the error, you can just copy the error, paste it into BingChat or GPT-4, and it can kind of resolve the errors. If it's just flashing and disappearing, it's a lot harder to troubleshoot. I did a few different versions, so I got to version 3. Let's see what happens with that one. So here, the window shows up, and it also disappears. It also showed the blog very briefly, and I did the troubleshooting for quite a long time. As you can see, I tried a bunch of different things. What's interesting about BingChat, it goes into debugging print statements. So here, to identify what exactly is happening with the code, it tells you to insert print statements. So these are kind of just like debugging statements of what exactly is happening. So that's pretty clever. I think that's what real computer engineers do, but I could not get this to work. Even at the end, it would just open up the game window and disappear. I did not go through the code manually to try to figure out what exactly is happening. Maybe it's a really easy fix, but I wanted to kind of create the whole game using just BingChat. And then what happened in the end is that, oops, I think we reached the end of this conversation. Click new topic if you would. And this is the biggest problem with BingChat right now, is that you run out of prompts. And in GPT-4, when you're paying for ChatGPT Plus, it just switches to ChatGPT from GPT-4 to ChatGPT. So it's not the latest model, but you can still keep going. And that's one of the problems with BingChat, is that if you're trying to do something more complicated, you run out of prompts and then it's kind of game over. But then what I did was I took the code and I pasted it into ChatGPT to see if I could fix it. So that's here. And then I tried to troubleshoot that one. So what is really nice about ChatGPT or GPT-4 is that you can paste the whole code. You can't do this with BingChat. So you can see I pasted the whole code and I tried to troubleshoot it and I could not get it to work. Let's talk about some points on what I learned doing this exercise. So I would say both of these tools, so GPT-4 and BingChat, are really good at writing the initial code. So here I have the initial code from GPT-4. And you can see it's a pretty nice code. There are some annotations. I included the steps from the outline. So step 1, step 2 as comments. That's I did that manually. And it defined nicely what's happening, defined the tetromino shapes, and so forth and so on. Here's the BingChat. And I would say the BingChat code is even better than the GPT-4 code. I couldn't get it to work, so that maybe it's not better. But what I would say is that the BingChat code is better annotated. So the comments, there are more comments in there. And I think it's more nicely formatted compared to the GPT-4 code. So if you are just trying to get snippets of code and you don't need to create the whole big project in GPT-4 or BingChat, maybe BingChat is better at creating small snippets of code. Second big learning is that when you do this 2 different times or more times, you're gonna get different code each time. So I did 3 different times and I got 3 different codes. And each of those codes has different type of issues with it. So the first time I actually got it to work, and I'll show you at the end what exactly I had to do to get it to work, but you're gonna get different codes. So that's something to keep in mind. So if it doesn't work the first time and you get completely stuck, it's probably worth starting over. The third thing I learned is that neither of those systems is good for debugging. So once you get the initial code, the debugging procedure is very lengthy, not super efficient, and it can be quite frustrating. I think a couple times it made me kind of change the same code multiple times. It forgot some really key things in the code. So I would say that's a pretty frustrating experience. It really helps if you can code on your own a little bit, so you can kind of fix simple issues really quickly. So for example, here in the GPT code, the issue was that the window width was 800 and the height was 600. But generally, the Tetris window is kind of narrow. It's not wide. So you want to change this manually from 800 to 300 to get the proper window size. Overall, GPT-4 versus BingChat. GPT-4, its biggest advantage compared to BingChat is that it can work with long code. So here, when I was trying to troubleshoot the BingChat code, I pasted the entire code in GPT-4 or ChatGPT. You can see the whole code can be pasted in there. See? Step 4 all the way. So the whole code can be pasted. And you can ask questions about your entire code. So in BingChat, I was trying to paste the whole code at this step. So you can see here's my current code. And it fits the step 1, step 2, here's step 3. And it ran out of space kind of halfway through or right after the step 3 mark. So you can paste the whole code into BingChat. And that's a huge problem. If you have a longer code that you want to troubleshoot and want to see what the issues are, you can't do that in BingChat. So combination of BingChat and ChatGPT can actually work for you because you can create the initial code in BingChat, which I think makes a nicer code than ChatGPT, and then try to troubleshoot it in ChatGPT. But what is nice about GPT-4 is that it's really easy to copy and paste the code. So here I was doing some troubleshooting, and it tells me the Python code. And all I have to do is to copy the code to here, click code, and then here I can paste it. And it's that easy, which makes a lot of sense. There shouldn't be that much difficult. I can even drag it like this, and then Command C and paste, and it works just like that. And you might be wondering, like, why is this such a big deal? Obviously, you can copy and paste. Well, it's not as obvious when you're using BingChat. So if you go to my Edge browser right here, let's go to the top. So here is my first code. And when you try to copy this, I can select it. I can hit Control C or Command C. And when I paste it, it's pasting the stuff still from GPT-4. So no matter how you select this, it's not gonna copy paste. And it's not just me. I found a thread on the internet that shows that people are having the same exact issue. So the only way to copy this is using these 3 dots. So that's why I have this junk file in PyCharm. So when you hit on this more, you can hit copy. And now when you paste it, where's my paste? There, you can paste the whole thing. And it pastes not just the code, it pastes the whole thing. So then you have to manually go and delete these parts, but it's not that big of a deal. So what I actually do is I have this junk file, and then I just copy my code, then I copy, and then I paste it in here. So it's good to have this junk file. So it's kind of an inconvenience. I hope they'll fix it. I thought it was just Mac, but I think people are having the same issues on Windows machines. The second biggest issue with the BingChat I have is that at the end, I ran out of prompts. So it says, oops, I think we've reached the end of this conversation. And the problem is that once you reach the end of the conversation, I start a new conversation, then BingChat won't remember what we were doing. So it won't be able to troubleshoot on the code that we've been working on. That wouldn't be such a big of a deal if I could paste the entire code that I have up to now, and then we would start a new conversation from that. But the combination that you run out of prompts in BingChat and you can't paste in your entire current code makes this not very useful when you're trying to work with longer codes and you're trying to troubleshoot them. So let's revisit the game that was working, but it had some issues. So here is the version 3 of my first attempt. And as you can see, this game works, but I'm getting too many squares. So as you can see, I got 2 squares already. That could be coincidence. But if you play this for a long time, you will see you're getting way too many squares. So I'm getting at the square, I'm getting the T1, I get more squares, but I'm not getting any of the long straight lines or the I ones. So let's look at the code manual and see what I did to fix it to get a fully functioning game. And based on playing the game, I knew that the shapes I was getting were not the right shapes. So then you go to the tetramino shapes, and here are the shapes. And these are matrices that kind of show you the shape of the things that you're trying to get. So you can see here, this is the T, so you can just look at the ones. You can see that this one is the Z, so 1, 1, 1, 1. And then here is the S. Here's the square, so 1, 1, 1, 1. And here where you get a problem. So here is another square, so 1, 1, 1, 1, and 0, 0. And this is another square, so 1, 1, 1, 1. And this is the L. So that's why we're getting too many squares. So instead of 7 different shapes, 3 of these are actually squares. So this one is a square, this one is the square, and this one is a square. So I tried to use GPT-4 to fix this. It was rewriting this shapes part of the code many, many times, but it would just not work. So I just went in manually and tried to change it. So instead of having these squares, I just went and manually changed it. So let's go to here. I changed the matrix size. So here's a T, and I also added comments for myself. So here's the T shape, here's the Z shape, here's the S shape, here's the square, and then I changed this one. So I just made it a matrix that's 0, 0, 0, and then 1, 1, 1, 1. So this would be the I-shaped tetramino. Here will be the L shape, and here's the J shape. The J shape and L shape are mirror flipped. And then when you run this code, it's all good. So if you play, so we had the T shape before, but let's just see what we need to do to get the I shape. And you can see they're all different colors, and the ones that are the same shape are the same color. So I just got 3 T's just to spite me. Here's a square. Here is that's an S shape. Here's a Z shape. Here's that's the J shape. And here's the I shape. And this game works. It flashes and then disappears. The score is a little bit off. For every row, you get 200 points, but you could kind of troubleshoot this and change it in the future game. I could not code this game by myself. There's no way. I'm not very good at Python coding. So ChatGPT and GPT-4 got me to the initial code, but then I had sufficient knowledge to kind of troubleshoot this and fix the code sufficiently that I had a working game. I'm taking the Code in Place class from Stanford, and at the end, you do a project. So here's the final project list. And a lot of people did the Tetris game as their final project. So here is a game. There's a little video on how they created this game. So this was the final project for the class. And I was able to do this using GPT-4 in probably a couple hours. So if you have a little bit of coding knowledge and GPT-4, you can get a lot further than with just GPT-4 or BingChat. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.